So that'll all be part of the site plan process, okay? All that traffic, you know, stormwater calculate, all that stuff gets done as part of the site plan process. That still has to come, okay? That'll get filed every year. And you're within 200 feet?
Right across the street.
19, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. So
Yeah, I'll
you'll
go through the house.
get notice of that. Okay, so you've got the site plan to go over all those issues.
Okay.
We already had a meeting kind of in the neighborhood, like a couple months ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the church, and went over some of the stuff with folks. But, site plan is where they'll address that traffic. Okay?
Okay.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Bill Fisher, 620 Colford, just with respect to what the woman just said, just because what's there now and 75% impervious coverage doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we should accept. I'm wondering, being that it's going from a place of assembly to a residential facility, perhaps they could get by with less parking, perhaps there could be some more stormwater mitigation, rain gardens, other things. I mean, clearly, stormwater management is an issue in our town, and perhaps we could ask the developers to take a look at, is there a way to improve stormwater in that area?
So the property can do with less parking, okay? So in fact, the issues we had were actually in negotiations, reducing the number of units that would be there to fit into what the parking would be, okay? So to make it viable, it needs that parking. The stormwater regs that are in effect here in New Jersey now, like, they will still have to comply with that, okay? So it just simply means that there are gonna be engineering controls that need to be done in order to properly handle the stormwater, okay? But for us to do something that says like, look, half that parking lot's gotta go, we're basically taking that whole property and making it useless. There's nobody can do anything with it.
Not asking for that.
Yeah, I know, it's not working as a church right now, so we're trying to make it work in a way that, frankly, the restriction we had in dealing with the developers were, look, you gotta make this work with what your existing is, okay? Your existing parking, because you're not, you know, first of all, there's really no room to add anything else, but we didn't want parking going, off-site. We wanted the parking to be confined onto that property, okay?
Thank you.
Sure thing. Sure. Anyone else? Okay, Kyle?
Mayor Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewandowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson.
Yes.
Okay, we have the first reading of ordinance 1779 for the purchase of 627 Haddon Avenue.
So this is introduction of an ordinance for acquiring a property that we have already acquired. This is simply correcting a clerical error made at the end of last year. We introduced an ordinance at the last meeting of the year. There were some issues it was not on the agenda for the last meeting of the year. We had closing anyway, it was not picked up that had not been adopted, so we're adopting the ordinance and basically ratifying the action that we took and authorizing that sale. Second reading will be at our March
4th.
4th meeting. Okay.
Mayor Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewandowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson.
Yes.
Okay, we have the first reading of ordinance 1780 to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
So this is an ordinance that we adopt every year. I've never had to use it, but we adopt it every year. There's a provision in state law that we all know there's a cap on municipal expenditures of 2.5%. This simply allows you to take the amount of the cap that you don't use in a certain year and bank it so that if you have a rough year, the year after, you can utilize that unused cap. Think of it as like spreading out that cap over a few years. So if you only use 2% in one year, you could take that 0.5%, carry it over to the following year. It would give you an ability to do 3%. We've never had to use it, but to be prudent, we adopt this at the beginning of every year. You have to have it on the books in order to be able to use it. So we're adopting this in case we need to use it. Public hearing will be at March 4th. Huh?
Mayor Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewandowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson.
Yes.
Be the first reading of 1781, appropriating $785,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for the purchase of a Spartan pumper fire truck.
Pretty self-explanatory. It's coming out of the budget, money we have sitting in the budget. We've accumulated over a couple of years to purchase a fire truck. Public hearing will be at the March 4 meeting.
Mayor Maley?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewandowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Maybe a public comment on the resolution agenda.
So anyone have any comments they'd like to make on what the agenda, the rest of this agenda is, the resolutions? We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about at the end of the meeting. Anything? Okay, Al?
Okay, reappointing Commissioner Robert Lewandowski as Class 3 member of the Planning Board. There's a typo on the agenda. It says Class 2, it should be Class 3.
Yes.
Reappointing Albert O. Hallworth as part-time building inspector.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Authorizing contract to Think Pavers Hardscaping LLC, Transit Village pedestrian improvements, various roads projects.
So this is a grant we got a few years ago. We're finally getting to do the building. You want to talk about it, Rob?
Yeah, a lot of this is, revolves around safe route, this is Safe Routes to Transit, grant that we received. So a lot of it is identified for things around the Manhattan Avenue corridor. It's great to do this stuff, period. It's better to do it with free money.
It's improving pedestrian crosswalks, some bike stuff, a bunch of improvements of a grant that we applied for and got. I think it's been like 30 years. It's actually a pretty quick run from what we're, Safe Streets and Schools was like 8 years to get it implemented. So that'll be starting. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Approving raffle licenses 2024-1 and 2 to Collinswood Burglary and 2024-3 and 4 to Catholic Community of Christ Our Light.
Yes.
Yes.
Authorizing the acceptance of the GCADA grant funds for Municipal Alliance.
Yes.
Authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds series 2024 of the Borough of Collinswood.
So this is authorizing, the borrowing of money for the Public Works building, which contracts have been let and work will be beginning shortly, and this is making sure that we have money to pay those bills.
Yes.
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 Rescinding designation of redeveloper and authorization of a redevelopment agreement for the property located at 869 Haddon Avenue in the Borough of Collinswood.
So this is a cannabis operator out on Route 130 that we had given an endorsement to, a resolution of support.
869 Haddon.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was the rescinding. This is authorizing, this is support, 869, which one's the?
869 Jackson.
The Draft Strand. Okay, all right, my bad, okay. So the Draft Strand property had a plan to do a development of a commercial with a couple floors of residential above it. They just let us know within the last few weeks that they're not gonna be able to move forward. They're trying to sell the property and move on the property. I've already been contacted by one person that has an interest in acquiring and doing some development there. So this is simply undoing the designation of that redeveloper so that we can deal with whoever the next person is coming.
Yes.
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 I'm
The
sorry.
next one, rescinding cannabis letter of support, CERC at 35 East Crescent Boulevard.
So this is a property that we had given a cannabis endorsement to out on Route 130. They had been unable to move forward with their project, largely because of parking. There wasn't enough parking, so they have now sold the property to a group that's coming in. I think they're coming in pretty shortly for site plan approval, and they've kind of solved the parking problem by, I think they've already done this, by removing half the building. So they're gonna make the building footprint smaller, increase the parking they have, they'll fit our standards in, they'll be able to move forward. So we're rejecting with the old one, and then the next one here is doing the resolution of support for the new cannabis operator coming in.
Yes.
Yes.
And the next one is the approving of resolution of support for the cannabis class 5 to Botanist Acreage LLC at 35 East Crescent Boulevard.
Yes.
Yes.
Authorizing transfer of budget appropriations.
So this is just moving money around in the budget, doesn't increase any line item, yes?
Authorizing to advertise to bid for the fiscal year 2024 New Jersey DOT Trust Fund, the resurfacing of McGill Avenue.
So this is a grant money that we got from the DOT for resurfacing McGill, and we're simply going out to get a contractor.
Yes.
Yes.
Authorizing to advertise to bid for water main, for water mains for the water main relocation project.
Yes?
Yes.
Authorizing a bicycle auction in 2024,
Yes.
Yes?
and approving the payment of bills as presented by the treasurer.
Yes.
Yes. That's all I
Got it. We good? Commissioner
yeah.
Robinson?
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody for all the hard work that went into the gala that we held, and congratulations on funds raised, and it was a beautiful, beautiful time. And our next event is March 1st, it's the Collins West fundraiser, and that one has a West theme, so get your cowboy hats, and, funds are being raised to determine, I believe there was a meeting today, for the beautification of the west side.
Commissioner Lukowski?
Yeah, just a couple reminders of things going around town. There's the Follow Your Heart in Collingswood. All the businesses in town are offering lots of special sales, promotions for the Valentine's Day holiday. And, we love it when you shop local, and we know that they have a lot of great opportunities for you. So you can find out about that on the Collingswood website. Honor of Black History Month, the borough has curated really a great list of activities, experiences, resources, for folks looking for opportunities to explore, to get involved, to learn more. Some are sponsored by the borough itself, some by the county, some by private organizations. Really fantastic and well worth it. I encourage everyone to check that out. And then, Chris is not here, but I always like to talk about the little library that does, because it's still doing it. Any given week and during the month, you have everything from Bouncing Baby Story Time, STEM Card, Lego Club, Art for Adults, AARP Tax Assistance is going on now. We host creative writing workshops, Cinema Society, Book Club, Team Crochet, TV Gaming, and then of course there's books and audiobooks and movies and music and museum passes. And the staff there, they love seeing you, so make sure you take advantage of your local library. That's all I got.
Okay, the borough's out on an RFQ, a request for qualifications for kind of this area back at the water towers back here to try and see what interest there is from the development community about doing something back here, about developing it. We've kind of made it open-ended so that we get concepts and proposals. So that's out on the street. The Ocean First property, we're talking to a couple developers. We had initially had conversations with another business in town that wanted to move there, but they decided against it. So we're kind of evaluating a plan. Very likely we go out on some kind of a request for proposals or qualifications on development of that site as well. A plan that we've seen over time, which we've talked about here before, had the building kind of staying intact on the front and like a series of townhouses being built along the street, 7, 8, 9 townhouses being built in the back. So we'll see. We're putting together a plan about how we want to allow people to make proposals and see what comes. I think that's kind of all I have. We'll open up. Anybody want to bring anything before the commission? This is your opportunity to do so. Yep. Kate, just give me again.
Yeah, I'm still Kate Delaney, still at 126 East Palmer Avenue. So yeah, as per the usual, a lot of development going on in Collingswood, redevelopment, and that means more pilot programs in town, which I am concerned about specifically in terms of the impact of the school district. I know that usually there's some kind of arrangement arrangement in the pilots to provide funding to the county. But certainly our schools need to be fully funded. If you have checked into the school district recently, I have 2 kids in public schools, and Collinsville High School cut a number of classes this year. Pretty much every art class that my 9th grader was signed up for got cut. So my question is, what is the plan to make sure that the school district is not shortchanged as we sign more and more pilot programs?
I'll address this again, which I know you've been here for before, but the schools are not shortchanged 1 penny by any pilot that the borough has ever done, okay? It's just not how municipal and school budgets operate. The schools put together their budget and say it's $100. They put together their budget for $100 and they put together the budget that they want to put together. And then that budget is taken and spread out over the taxable values in town. And a pilot, entering into a pilot, takes no money from the schools. It can mean that everyone else is paying a couple extra dollars, but pilots, I'll say it again, pilots never, ever, ever take a penny from a school budget. The schools adopt a budget, they collect every penny of that budget. I just signed checks tonight, they get paid from the borough whether we collect it or not, okay? People that don't pay their taxes, we collect the taxes. Even though people may not pay their taxes, we cut a check to the schools for the full amount of the budget they adopted. And then it's up to us, through a lot of different mechanisms, that we protect the borough budget from having to pay that money out. There's a thing in a municipal budget, it's called the Reserve for Uncollected Taxes. So for every dollar somebody doesn't pay us in '23, which thankfully it's not many dollars, our tax collection is like 99.98%. But for every dollar we don't get paid in '23, we have to put a line item in the '24 budget for $2. So if we don't collect $100 in '23, we have to put $200 in our budget for '24, and we all pay that. All of us that pay our taxes, we pay that. And that's a state law that helps ensure that we have the money to pay the schools and the county everything in their budget. They are not shortchanged ever anything. And on the budget, we've done one pilot in the last few years, and it's on the Station House property. And what we have done is, we're doing just what we said for the last several years. Any new pilots that we do, we're gonna take the money that we collect on those and gonna devote it to the recreation fields, okay? So a first priority, obviously, is the high school fields. As we announced all these things that we're doing, we've engaged in about a year-long process now, doing a recreation study of town. We had big charrettes here, had people come in, we collected a few hundred people, collected data from them, and we just had a meeting in the last couple of weeks, steering committee meeting, and we expect to be out in the next month or two with results kind of that. But we're kind of, so again, on the Station House, the pilot we did there, they're paying 85% of the improvement tax and all of the land tax. So and they get no credit for it. The deduction that they're getting is basically what the county tax. So they get that incentive to do the improvements they did there, and then we're holding that money aside in a separate fund to be used for recreation in town. We're targeting it for recreation. Schools are getting all of their money. They never get shortchanged. Never, ever, ever.
The only thing I wanted to add about
Go ahead.
900 is that the valuation of that property went up significantly
Yes.
on the sale. And even with the pilot, we're getting much more money to the community than we got before. And that was, and the incentive pilots aren't you know, unique to here, they're used. But it's also led to investment in office properties, and I can tell you, nobody is investing into office properties right now, right? The office market after COVID is shot. I mean, putting money into that property is a benefit as well. So I just wanted to point out that it's actually bringing in more money since the sale because of the valuation.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I would like to respond.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess my first response would be, I do think it's like that we have these abatements and that the whole town is designated as blighted and in need of redevelopment is like a little bit shocking, like when people hear that about Collingswood.
You're wrong, it's not, it's designated in need of rehabilitation, and that was done about 10 years ago.
Okay, but 10 years is like a, you know, it's a whole decade, the town has changed a lot in a decade, so that's surprising to me. As you said.
Is it really? Really, you didn't know that, huh?
Okay, I'm gonna talk now.
Okay.
I also, as you mentioned, it does mean that with the pilots, that more of the tax burden is shifted onto the taxpayers, which isn't something I appreciate. And having read, you know, the state comptroller's writings about pilot programs, best practice seems to be to have the school district at the table when financial deals are being hammered out, rather than you saying, this is what we've decided the school district means. So is there a representative that is part of those conversations from the school district? And I'm not saying the school district's budget isn't without, you know, flaws or there might be issues there. I'm just saying that from the borough's point of view, are they part of that conversation?
So you started out saying that pilots shortchange the schools.
Right.
And do you understand now that it doesn't? Right? Pilots don't shortchange the school. And
Well,
so
why
having
is
heard
the
that,
county-
now we're shifting gears now. And now it's, you'd like the schools to be, have a seat at those tables. No, they have not been a part of those negotiations where there are bigger pilots that would involve residential properties, like for the lumberyard. I had a lot of conversations with the schools about that for us to contemplate school children and how we could handle that. But for commercial properties, no, we have not. We have not.
And would you be open to doing that, to including the school
Oh, I
district?
can talk to them all the time. There's no need to include them when we're doing this. They know, they're very aware that we're segregating this money, trying to create new money that will be used in part to fund recreation facilities for the schools. Okay? They're very aware of that. They're part of the study that we're doing. Okay? So they're very aware of what we're doing.
Okay, well, to recap my point, since I did not change course, I do not think we need more pilots. I am concerned that we're not fully funding the schools and would like to see numbers to prove that we are. And yeah, I think that, you know, that's really important to me as a resident, both the tax impact and certainly the school impact.
Yeah, I understand you have concerns. When you get a number that shows that the schools are shortchanged, you let me know. Because it doesn't exist. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Bill Fisher, 620 Colford again. I'm just curious, since I'm a relatively new resident of Collingswood, is there a process, for example, with the Ocean First property, that you put together a list of desired uses you'd like to see come to that property so that you're out soliciting to developers, for example? I mean, are you looking for housing? Hopefully, we don't need any more Italian restaurants in Collingswood. But because we have many good ones already. But do we need another restaurant? Do we need other kinds of tax ratables, offices? I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are, the three of you, that what you would ideally like to see on a property like that.
So the zoning, you know, is kind of set. The zoning kind of sets
Right.
forth what uses will be permitted there. We've said with other developers that have been in that, like, we'd love to see that back. It's a really big parking lot for today's world. To see some kind of residential in the back. But we're open to whatever the development community, you know, comes and shows us.
Okay.
I think, since you asked,
Yeah.
you know, I think the idea of mixed use there and adding some housing density is important. I think the idea of sort of extending and connecting our downtown district used to be, before really lumberyard, people didn't go past Wawa. No one ever thought to go west. And now, over time, as you know, properties have people have invested and it's flourished, it's sort of brought people out there. But there are sort of gaps in there. We want to kind of make that more seamless. So the idea of mixed use development there, I think, is good. But it's also just sort of the right amount of it, right? right? So we've had people that say, yeah, we wanna build a towering thing of residential. Now, in one sense, you'd say, well, having more residential is good, but there are homes right next to that, you know, that it would just shadow their place. And we said, no, we don't want that. It's got, balance is such an important thing. So I think the idea is to make sure what goes there really fits in with sort of creating that balance between how we live, how we work, how we shop and dine.
Right, that was the point I was gonna make, the continuity of the neighborhood. We're not just taking any old plans and we review them all for making it still look like Collingswood and feel like Collingswood.
Yeah, we had developers that wanted to duplicate the lumberyard on that side of the street, okay, and that's like too much. That side of the street there is different than, it doesn't have a train behind it, it has single family homes behind it, so we've kind of, warded a lot of those off. Kind of had the same meeting over and over and over and over and over again, so we're not doing that, no.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yep. Klingerman, give your name and address for the record.
Yeah, all right. Rich Klingerman, 743 Naval Terrace. Earlier, you made the discussion about the area where the public works buildings are,
Mhm.
et cetera, and beyond there, where the old police station was.
Mhm.
I was looking at the situation as on Saturday, when the farmer's market there, that parking area is all filled up. Because the parking by the high-speed line is all used by the farmer's market. And I see people walking from their cars way beyond the Petco station to park to get to the farmer's market. And all the streets around there all filled up. And if you do away with that parking space, where are you gonna have people with that's handicapped that use that?
Well, we'll figure it out if we get to that point, okay? There have to be, for any development to happen out here, it's gonna have to be some kind of structured parking, has to be part of it. So, we'll see, we're not, the farmer's market will be here this summer. We're not gonna have anything happen by then, so we got time to figure it
And a
out.
lot of people park in that space there on Fridays and Saturdays, when there's no farmer's market to go up to the restaurants.
We're very aware of that, and so any kind of development back here will have to give us, we don't just wanna replace the parking, we wanna get a net gain in the public parking, okay? That's one of the goals, so we'll see.
And the only other thing I'd say is, the other side of it is, it's not good use of this property to have essentially storage for 16 hours a day or 12 hours a day of trucks and garbage trucks and stuff in one of
Yeah,
those
I
vibrant
can
downtowns.
understand the area where the public works buildings are, but not beyond there.
It will all have to, we have to think of it both as individual pieces, but as parcels, but really as a whole too, and how it all plays.
And even if there's not development, Mr. Kleber, think of it this way, that surface parking lot gives you so many parking spaces, that's it, okay? And for our downtown to thrive, we need more, okay? We need more, all right? And we prefer not to do it by taking other, spreading out a footprint of concrete parking, lots. We'd rather condense it, maybe we look at building something and putting them inside. But we'll see.
Three-level parking.
Yeah, we'll see. We did that over here at the lumberyard, it's full all the time, so we'll see. Hopefully if you build more parking, they'll come. Okay?
And hopefully they'll walk and bike and do all those things too, right?
Anyone else? Okay, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Recording stopped.
It's a long line.
Which I can.
It's kind of outdated.
And, find it that way, right?
Yeah.
Right, Joe?
I know.
Joe,
Yes.
Yes.
I just have a couple of really.
Sure.
Okay, just back on.
For your gig. I showed everything to my dad. He said thank you.
We went out on an RFQ, requesting qualification, for folks